Hey everybody, welcome back to the Bourbon Note. I'm Greg.
I'm Ben.
And today, we're drinking bourbon.
Rye.
Rye? Why the rye? All right, Ben. Rye you want us to try, so why not?
Oh my lord, you're just gonna be insufferable this whole video, aren't you? It's gonna be, bam, Stearns American Small Batch Avon Rye Whiskey. And this one is actually on loan to us from a friend of mine, also a friend of the channel, named Ryan Frank.
Friend of the channel, awesome dude.
If you're ever in our live streams, you may recognize that name from the chat.
Maybe he doesn't.
But he's also a longtime friend of mine, so he lent me this bottle for us to do a review of. And this is a Minnesota one, so I do realize that this one may not have, I'm assuming this probably doesn't have national distribution, so this may be a
small batch,
sort
small
of
producer.
A niche audience for this particular one. But what it is a rye whiskey finished on charred pimento wood, and it literally says finished on. So maybe they just laid out some wood and poured the whiskey on it and then just dumped it back in. I'm sure that's not how that happened, but it's kind of interesting wording.
So aren't pimentos those little bugs that we get all over our houses in the end of summer?
I don't know. 97 proof. I feel like those are box elder bugs. Is pimento a bug?
I thought that was a bug. Pimento? Or the thing that they stick in the olives? Aren't those called pimentos?
That might be.
So I honestly have no idea what this is.
I think you're right on the olive thing.
Yeah, I think it is.
Definitely an interesting.
I have no idea what pimento wood is and how you finish it on. But,
yeah.
you know, even though this is only a Minnesota, well, we're assuming it's only Minnesota distribution. I mean, we do have airports. People could fly in and pick this up.
You could fly here, yeah, to buy this whiskey.
Yep.
Definitely got some strong rye vibes on the nose.
Okay. So we don't know that. I was going to say, do we know like mash bill, but we're assuming just a rye. So Minnesota is actually fairly famous for, obviously, corn, but probably rye as well.
Rye
so
as well,
this could be locally sourced.
A lot of bourbons and rye whiskeys use Minnesota rye.
Yeah, and Canadian.
I'm assuming it's locally sourced rye. It has an interesting nose because it has that rye, kind of a quintessential standard rye vibe to it. A little bit of the clove, I would say.
Yeah, there's
a little bit of the spice.
Oh, there's
some citrus zest, maybe.
I definitely would assume it's pot stilled at this point. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I would say as far as the type of distillation methods, that's my second favorite.
Okay. There's also a bit of a spice that's not a rye spice. And I wonder if that pimento wood is something.
It's a weird spice and citrus.
Yeah, it's interesting. Now let's go in for the palate here. Cheers.
There's a little bit of lemon and orange on there as well, which I don't know where that comes from. Maybe it's the pimento wood.
Well, let's see if it comes through. Wow, that's really, I think it's soft on the edges.
Drinks different than it smells.
Yeah, I like the palate better than the nose, actually.
Yeah, because there's a lot of things happening, not all of which are like great.
97 proof, that's a really, really soft. I want to say it's smooth, but I don't mean that insultingly because sometimes that can, have negative connotations. But you know what, though? A lot of people we've talked about are looking for a smoother, but something with flavors, but not really quite the rough edges of the alcohol.
They don't want the sledgehammer to the teeth kind of note. Trying to think through what I'm getting on this. It's got a decent viscosity for sub 100 proof. It's got a flavor that kind of sticks around, and it's a little bit of butter pecan kind of candy, but not super sweet.
I'm with you on the buttery. I'm surprised that I can't imagine this is a terribly aged whiskey. It's fairly light.
Yep.
Typically with the craft whiskey,
it's younger.
It's tough for them to get the higher aged stuff unless they're sourcing. And this is actually produced by Bent Brew Distillery, Roseville, Minnesota, exclusively for Stearns American, Avon, Minnesota.
Yep.
Avon is a town, Stearns is a county that Avon's in. That's what the name is all about. This is leaving like a lingering aftertaste that I'm actually really enjoying, and it's coming across as nice, like
it's vanilla, but not very vanilla-y. It's kind of it's a pastry that's not overly sweet.
I feel like I was also told that the pimento wood, I could be wrong about this, But I think Alyssa up at Spirits told me that the pimento is something, it adds like a spice.
I'm
getting that. I'm almost getting like a bit of a very, very light Tabasco flavor.
That's funny you should say that, because I was leaning toward we made comment about olives. I was leaning toward a little bit of a green olive, almost the vinegariness, but it's not vinegar. Like just a very subtle hint of olive.
I'm actually I think this is a really nice whiskey, to be perfectly honest. I'm pretty
interesting.
impressed because I wasn't expecting a whole lot from it.
Yeah.
Because again, it's craft distilleries. I mean, more power to them for producing their own distillate and aging it. But that's a long process to do that, to get, beyond
a terrible business model.
Yeah, to get beyond a 2-year whiskey.
Right.
And so a lot of them put out those 2-year products. And again, this one doesn't look like it's terribly well aged. But it also, I mean, it has nice flavors. I think it drinks really easy, so even if you're like a beginner to rye or just a beginner to whiskey, I think you can enjoy this one. And it also has a really nice grain flavor to it that sometimes can come across as youthy, but in this case, it's not coming across that way. I'm sure it probably is, but...
So when you say grain, like it seems like the finish on this is corn. And
I don't...
And it's not like a...
Who knows if there's even corn in it? It could be 100% rye, but it's...
interesting. It's almost like a... Yeah, I mean, I don't eat rye foods very much, so maybe it's a rye experience. But it's like it's got this interesting grain note that's how it finishes, along with vanilla. I don't know. This is actually a far more interesting whiskey for a whiskey geek.
Yeah.
Than a lot of big distillery kind of
Yep.
produce another thing similar to everything else they do.
I was gonna say this at 100 proof, but it's at 95 already.
I thought you said 97.
I think I did say 97 before.
Oh.
It's 47.5.
Oh.
95 proof.
Yeah, tune in next week when we learn math.
Yeah, exactly. But, and I know we say this all the time, but this had a slightly higher proof, even just as is. I think it'd be really, really
interesting.
Yeah. But I mean, again, I'm pretty impressed with this. I think he said he paid 45 for this, but some places are charging closer to 60, so probably around that 50
seems
area
to be the average for
a craft,
local
craft
distillery
whiskey,
kind of thing.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, again, no problem with this one.
I think it's actually really interesting if you want to explore something slightly outside the traditional, right down the middle of the road kind of rye whiskey.
I don't know what this would be off the top of my head, but I also feel like this could be a good thing to pair with something. Like, I feel like this belongs in a category because it leaves that nice, spicy, like I said, borderline like Tabasco-y kind of aftertaste. Like, I have this burn going on right now, and I feel like you could pair something with that really well. But it's still a smooth, easy drinking whiskey that I think anybody could enjoy. So, all right. Well, anything else on this one?
I was going to make a funny joke about pairing it with stuff, but it wasn't funny enough to... It didn't make it into the episode. Apologize.
Well, thank you for sparing us all of that. In the meantime, this has been Stearns American Small Batch Avon Rye Whiskey on the Bourbon Note. I'm Ben.
I'm Greg. Till next time. See you next time.